Pittsburgh is fresh off a season where they won 11 games, won their first ever ACC title, and made the Peach Bowl. But after the loss of their two biggest playmakers, the question is, can the Panthers do it again? So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys, ready to predict Pittsburgh's schedule and record for this upcoming college football season. A very, very big season for Pittsburgh and what will once again be a wide open ACC Coastal Division. You take a look at the numbers, guys, brought to you by College Football Encyclopedia. The Panthers returned 69% of the production from last year, ranks 45th in the nation. But they lose their star quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and they lose their star wide receiver Jordan Addison, the Bolitnikoff winner, who transferred over to USC, some controversially, some consider. But you look at the offense, guys, Kedon Slovis does transfer in from USC, trading one player for another. Slovis transfers in at quarterback, and I think will do a fine job in replacement of Kenny Pickett. The Panthers also have Israel Abanikanda at running back, one of the best running backs within the ACC, and they return their entire offensive line. And we talk about it in so many games for so many teams. Being able to win at the line of scrimmage is huge, and Pittsburgh will be able to do both. Because while the offense is looking fine, the defense was 39th in the country last year, and their defensive line is loaded. 7 starters back on that side of the ball. Very solid front 7. The secondary, though, something that should not be overlooked. So experience and depth at all levels, and Pat Narduzzi's squad is once again in a spot where they could go back to the ACC championship game, go back to that title game, and defend their crown. We take a look at the schedule, guys. It's tough. And you're going to know what type of team Pittsburgh has and how well these transfers mesh together and how well Slovis will do. You'll know that by the end of week 2. Because they opened the year against West Virginia and Tennessee. Neither of those, cupcake teams, neither of those automatic wins. Start with West Virginia. The backyard brawl returns. Big-time rivalry game between Pittsburgh and the Mountaineers. First time they will be meeting since 2011. Great game, too, guys. Kedon Slovis versus JT Daniels, who transferred to West Virginia. Both teams have very solid offensive lines. But at the end of the day, guys, the thing I'm looking at here is the secondary. West Virginia's secondary is a bit of a concern, probably the weakest point on their defense. In addition to that, the Mountaineers really don't have much of a run game. Didn't have one last year, probably won't have one this year. Pittsburgh's defense can hone in on the pass, can hone in on shutting down JT Daniels. I like Pittsburgh's defensive line better right now in terms of pressuring JT Daniels. And again, I also think Kedon Slovis is going to do a lot better than people think. I think they're going to be able to attack that West Virginia secondary. The Panthers will beat West Virginia in the first backyard brawl since 2011. They then take on Tennessee in Pittsburgh. Last year, Pittsburgh won at Neyland Stadium 41-34. Very, very tough place to play. Very, very hard-fought physical game last year. Tennessee, guys, they're loaded offensively. Hendon Hooker returns. Tennessee had the 9th-ranked offense in the country last year. They're going to be even better this year. But very similar to West Virginia, Tennessee's defense is a concern. The Volunteers were 122nd in terms of facing the pass last year, 122nd against the pass. They only got off the field 42% of the time on third down. They didn't have much of a pass rush, couldn't get off the field, and if they can't stop that passing game and Slovis pans out like we think he will, Tennessee will struggle a little bit. I expect this game to be close, very similar to it was last year. But at home field advantage, another key here, Pittsburgh will beat the Volunteers. Might not agree, a lot of people probably won't agree with that pick, but we feel good about it. Pittsburgh 2-0, and then the schedule lightens up. They will beat Western Michigan. Yes, they lost to the Broncos last year 44-41. Revenge is on the Panthers' mind. Yes, it's interesting they have to go on the road for this game, but they will not fall to a Western Michigan team that had to see a pretty big rebuild on the offensive side of the ball. 3-0. They beat Rhode Island 4-0. They beat Georgia Tech 5-0. They beat the Yellow Jackets by 31 last year, and the Yellow Jackets will be one of the worst teams in the league again this year. So they beat them 5-0. They take on Virginia Tech. The Panthers beat the Hokies 28-7 last year. Again, Pittsburgh hosting this game. You look at those first 6 games, guys, they only have one road game, and it's at Western Michigan. The schedule very favorable early on. We think they're going to beat Virginia Tech here, guys, because while the Hokies have a pretty solid defense, the offense is going to struggle mightily. A lot of changes they're going to have to make there under new head coach in Brent Pry. Pittsburgh has home field advantage. And again, the Hokies will struggle offensively here. So while the defense might get a couple stops, eventually Pittsburgh's offense is going to wear this team down. So again, we have that down as a win for Pittsburgh, and they are 6-0 heading into their bye week. Now again, we mentioned only one road game there. In the last 6 games, they have 4 road games. So the schedule gets a little bit more difficult. Out of the bye week, they go on the road to face on Louisville. And here's the question. At this point in the year, the toughest offense Pittsburgh will have seen would be Tennessee in week 2. Louisville would be up there as the second so far. They face a Louisville team on the road that has one of the better dual-threat quarterbacks in the country in Malik Cunningham. Can Pittsburgh stop him? Right now, we're going to say no. A lot of Pittsburgh fans will not agree with that, I'm sure. But the game is on the road. Louisville plays relatively well at home and did enough on their defense that I think they can shut down this Pittsburgh offense. Scott Satterfield addressed the defensive concerns, knew they needed to make a change. He addressed it and got a lot of players in the transfer portal because right now the offense isn't the issue for the Cardinals. And I think the offense can wear down this Pittsburgh defense. I think the Cardinals get enough stop defensively. Home field advantage, only the second time Pittsburgh will be away from home. I think they fall to the Cardinals here in a close game. So their second loss of the year, or first loss of the year, excuse me. Their second loss of the year comes at North Carolina. And a lot of people probably disagree with that too. But you look at UNC, guys. Last year, the Tar Heels weren't much of anything. Very disappointing. Despite having the 10th ranked offense in the country, they still went 6-7. Pittsburgh only beat them 30-23 in overtime. Now they're having to head to Chapel Hill against a UNC team that at this point in the year should have fixed any quarterback issues they had, whether it's Drake May or Jacoby Criswell. A major weakness for UNC last year was their defense, one that I think will improve as the year goes on with Gene Chizik as their defensive coordinator and all of the major recruits that Mack Brown has pulled together over these last few years. The game being in Chapel Hill now, guys, I think North Carolina gets the job done. I think their secondary steps up, slows down Kedon Slovis. They are able to do enough in stopping the Pittsburgh run game. And in a game that I think is relatively close again, UNC gets the win, hands Pittsburgh their second loss. And that loss, guys, could be what is the nail in the coffin for Pittsburgh's ACC title hopes. Certainly would be for any playoff hopes, but maybe the ACC title hopes depending on how the rest of the Coastal does. So they fall to Louisville, they fall to North Carolina, back-to-back road games there. We think they bounce back and beat Syracuse, a team they beat by 17 last year. All Pittsburgh has to do here is stop the run, and they were pretty solid at doing that last year. The game is at home, finally back in Pittsburgh. They'll beat Syracuse. They then go on the road to take on Virginia, a game that is going to be tough here because, again, Pittsburgh had the 115th ranked passing defense in the country last year. They weren't too great in the secondary themselves. They're now going up against Brennan Armstrong, who by himself was accumulating over 400 yards per game. Virginia had the second-ranked passing offense in the country. And last year, Pittsburgh beat the Cavaliers 48-38, a game that was huge in determining who would win the Coastal Division and go to the ACC Championship game. But I think Pittsburgh on the road is able to take down the Cavaliers. I genuinely believe that. I think the defense finally steps up. I think Pat Narduzzi realizes the importance of this game, very similar to last year. About the same time, could have major division implications. They're able to go on the road and get the job done solely because of their defense, one that Virginia simply does not have. Pittsburgh will annihilate Duke. Blew them out last year. Duke had the worst defense in the nation last year. Will struggle again now. And will close the year out at Miami. And to me, this feels like a very similar game to Virginia. A quarterback for Miami and Tyler Van Dyke that's going to really challenge this Pittsburgh secondary. Challenge them in a big, big way. But I think, unlike the Virginia game that we just predicted, Pittsburgh will fall on the road to the Hurricanes. Last year, the Panthers was what some would say would be a better team in 2021 than they'll have in 2022. They fell to Miami in Pittsburgh 38-34. Now Miami should be drastically better with Mario Cristobal as their head coach, drastically better with Tyler Van Dyke in his first full year as starter, drastically better at home. If Miami could win last year in Pittsburgh, they can win at home in Miami, and they will. So Pittsburgh, guys, we have finishing the year at 9-3. Another fantastic, solid year for Pittsburgh. A couple years ago, they were still hovering around that 7-8 win mark, never really eclipsing that. They win 11 last year. They win 9 this year. And depending on how the rest of the conference fares, guys, especially in the Coastal, how Miami fares, how North Carolina fares, guys like that, 9-3 with 3 conference losses might still be good enough to get Pittsburgh back into the ACC Championship game. Who they will face? Not quite sure yet. I'm sure you have a pretty good idea. But the Panthers are still ACC title contenders. They're still arguably the team to beat in the ACC Coastal, and they will still have a very successful year and another shot at a double-digit win season in 2022. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Make sure to sign up for those today and become a part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.